Candidates on a collision course. The latest wave of national surveys showing the strengths and weaknesses of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Polls, depending on the time of day, the issue that's going on, you see that people's opinions are very fluid. And depending on what's happening in the world at the time or in their lives at the time, their answers could be totally different from one day to the next.
The former lieutenant governor in Florida bringing her expertise to the presidential campaigns. We also look at campaign issues among the federal races in Florida, and we go to UNF for that. What's in store for Corrine Brown as she asks for re-election to Congress? All on This Week in Jacksonville. In our Hot Topics and Politics show, we begin in politics in a federal position from Florida. When Marco Rubio declared his run for president, he decided not to run for re-election to the U.S. Senate. Well, that changed just days before qualifying this month as the Republican incumbent re-upped. And that sent a flood of GOP candidates off the ballot or back to their other positions in the private or public sector. For Democrats, the field includes two congressmen trying to make that move across the street in Washington. We've already introduced you to Patrick Murphy and Alan Grayson here on our show previously. So this morning, the only Northeast Florida option and connection is Reginald Luster, who joins us now. Thanks. Great to get to meet you.
You're welcome.
So Mr. Luster is an attorney, owns a real estate investment and management corporation. Some of the credentials: first African-American lawyer voted to serve as president of the Jacksonville Bar Association, former assistant U.S. attorney, then worked in Washington at the Justice Department. So tell me all that background. Why jump in terms of politics, why jump right in and go, I'm going for the U.S. Senate?
Well, the reason I'm running for the U.S. Senate is because I want to represent and vote for the interests of Floridians over partisan politics.
How is that accomplished, sir? It sounds lofty, and I bet there are a lot of candidates who say, that's what I want to do. How do you do that, especially in this political climate we're in?
Well, I think if you look at the current incumbent, he often does not represent and vote for the interests of Floridians. In fact, he votes for the interests of his political party, even though the party's agenda is in conflict with the interests of Floridians. Take, for example, the recent shooting in Orlando. For the most part, most Americans and definitely most Floridians want to see something done to prevent these military assault rifles from getting in the hands of local domestic terrorists. Then when the issue came before the U.S. Senate, weeks after the shooting, the incumbent voted against the interests of Floridians and simply voted the party line. That is the essence of partisan politics.
Some would counter that the incumbent is voting along with what his constituents say, because so many people in Florida have that other view. When we talk gun control, boy, it seems like you can get 50-50 on what people here in Florida think about how the law should be. You obviously, your extensive legal background and Department of Justice and U.S. attorneys, that sort of thing. I'm sure you've had lots to consider when it comes to that particular topic. I want to ask about this for just a moment. You mentioned that you support a bill making higher education affordable and accessible. This is something that Bernie Sanders, as a presidential campaigner, has said, hey, we're going to do this. Same thoughts for you, or how do you make it more affordable?
Well, my thoughts are really different, okay? I look back to the time when I was in college at Florida State University in Tallahassee. During that particular time, the Federal Department of Education offered grants to students, and they offered low-income student loans. Today, when you look at federal grants, for the most part, the Department of Education doesn't receive the funding in order to offer those grants. In addition to that, most student loans today, they are 4 or 5% interest, but if the Department of Education offers those student loans, the interest would be 1%, 2%, thereby making education much more affordable. And then obviously when the students graduate, they won't be burdened with high interest loans. And another thing that the Department of Education did when I was in school 25 plus years ago, the interest rate would be deferred during the entire time the person is studying and in school. And it would only begin to accrue after you graduate.
Right. So there are some programs still like that, but as a parent who's helping pay for college for a couple of students starting this fall, Yeah, that's not always the case in those interest rates. Yeah, they seem to balloon compared to what I was accustomed to back when I went to school and what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And that is really the hallmark of making education more affordable. But also, I think we've got to encourage private individuals, corporations, and other nonprofit organizations to provide these scholarships and give them some type of tax break when they offer these scholarships to students.
Yeah, a little incentive for them, right?
They've got to have the incentive, but those things have gone away, and we need to put those back in place and make education much more affordable.
You know, I know that this is a tough task when you're located here in Northeast Florida. Florida's a big state, and this is a statewide election, so I'm sure we've got some photos of some of the work you've been doing, getting out and campaigning and trying to meet some folks.
Right.
While we're seeing some of those, what are your thoughts on immigration? Does this system need reform, or does it just need better enforcement, or what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on it is really two-part. I do think we need to reform our immigration system, and once again, if you polled most Floridians, given the fact that we're the third most populous state in the union, and many members are immigrants, okay? So we would like to see immigration reform because we have a lot of people here who need some type of relief from being deported, particularly when we have children whose parents aren't natural citizens, but we've got these children actually born in this country, and clearly we shouldn't even think about deporting these people, these children that is, outside of our country. So meanwhile, because of partisan politics, the incumbent, following the party line, there has been no votes, no debate, no discussion, none whatsoever about immigration reform, simply because the party doesn't want to address that issue under the current president.
Well, that particular senator that you're referring to as incumbent got a lot of grief from his party about trying to do something bipartisan in this Gang of Eight, and it's something that it seems like you can't touch in Washington without being on the wrong side of the street and getting criticism. So to address that as a senator, it's going to take some courage, isn't it?
Well, it should, and I think if you look at the record of the incumbent, for the most part, he has simply followed the party line, even though Floridians would like to see votes on immigration. Floridians would like to see vote on gun legislation. And the issue is not simply gun control. The issue here is protecting Floridians from these military-style assault rifles. And also, that has a direct effect on the economy in Florida. If people don't feel safe coming to Florida, then you know, tourism, we have the largest tourism industry in I would say in the nation, and even many from overseas, they come here and they come to Florida to vacation. Well, if Florida is not safe, if we don't have some type of legislation that will prevent people from being killed, then our tourism industry will be on the decline.
Last thing here for you, got a relationship with former governor, former Senator Bob Graham. Is he in the Reginald Luster camp? Is he supporting you here?
Obviously he is, no doubt about it. He is a mentor of mine, and I remember when I finished my internship 20-something years ago, he stated that one day he would like to see me get into politics.
Oh, how about that? And he's the one. He's encouraging people on how to be engaged in public service like that. So thanks so much. And before you go, just want to remind folks who is on the ballot here coming up in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. It's Rocky De La Fuente, Representative Alan Grayson, Pam Keith, Mr. Luster here, and U.S. Rep. Patrick Murphy. Thanks so much for the time. Great to meet you.
Thank you very much.
So what do people think about that newly shaped Congressional District 5? That's where Corrine Brown is going to have to weather a storm named Al Lawson. Dr. Michael Bender joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
That's about an hour till I'm home. You're going to be late for work today.
Fire drill.
Now that's a pleasant surprise. Just like finding out that with Direct Auto and Life Insurance, you can get a low rate regardless of your driving history.
With Haverty's Furniture, your home can be perfect, even when life isn't.
The neighbor's back.
Oh, no.
This is my husband, Gibby. I wanted to show him your furniture.
I like it. You want to come in?
Oh, no. That would be weird.
The 4th of July sale is happening now. Haverty's.
This 4th of July, Nissan's giving you 1,000 more reasons to celebrate. Choose excitement, capability, safety, and get holiday bonus cash. During Nissan's Free to Choose event, get up to 1,000 holiday bonus cash on top of existing offers and save up to $3,500 on Altima. Hurry! Bonus cash ends July 5th. Shop at your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today.
Can your kid's sunscreen pass the Wet Skin Challenge? Neutrogena Wet Skin does. On wet skin, ordinary sunscreen mixes with water and drips. Neutrogena Wet Skin sprays on and stays on. Forms a UVA-UVB barrier. Wet Skin. Neutrogena.
It's the one 4th of July sale you don't want to miss. Mattress One's 4th of July $1 sale. Buy a mattress and get all-American $1 deals. Like a box spring, just $1. Memory foam pillow, just $1. Elevate and save up to $800 on a Serta adjustable set. Save up to $600 on select Beauty Rest, Stearns & Foster, Sealy Posturepedic, and Optimum sets. Plus 0 interest for up to 5 years. For the best selection and the lowest prices, we're the one. Visit mattressone.com to find a store near you.
That's about an hour delay. You're going to be late for work today.
Fire drill.
Now that's a pleasant surprise. Just like finding out that with Direct Auto and Life Insurance, you can get a low rate regardless of your driving history.
This year, the city of Jacksonville's Fireworks Spectacular is going to be better than ever. Channel 4 puts you right in the heart of the action. Kent Justice and Mary Bayer bring you all the excitement of Jacksonville's enhanced 4th of July celebration. Plus, don't miss the Oh Say Can You Sing finale. All 3 finalists will perform live and you choose the winner. Be a part of the city's biggest celebration of the summer. The 2016 Fireworks Spectacular, Monday, July 4th at 8 p.m. on the local station. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Dr. Michael Bender joins us. I was going to say guru of grabbing information from you, the voters. Works at University of North Florida and runs the Public Opinion Research Laboratory. Great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
So you recently conducted a poll concerning Congressional District 5. This is the district that includes Jacksonville, but now runs all the way west to Tallahassee. Yep. Following redistricting. So this has kind of been a hot topic. Lawsuits from Corrine Brown saying we're not going to do this. But here it is. She finally dropped the suit and said, okay, time to run. What did you find out in this recent poll?
Well, it's close, and not necessarily surprisingly so. She's at 30%. Al Lawson's at 27%. Behind them, there's a third candidate. But the real interesting thing is 40% of the voters, and these are likely voters, interested Democratic voters, they don't know who they're going to vote for.
Let's show you on that graphic right here. And yeah, talk through that. The winner is don't know or no answer.
Yeah, the plurality of the people that don't know. And I think there's probably 2 things going on here. First, this new district that we talked about, a great many of the people in this district have never had Corrine Brown as their representative. Al Lawson's been out of office for several years, so that might be contributing to that as well. These people just don't know who their representative is going to be, so there's uncertainty about that. The other thing that's going on is there's this other presidential race going on in November, I think.
Yeah, might be.
And believe it or not, people aren't really paying a lot of attention to August 30th. Everybody's paying attention to November 8th, and because of that, the Democratic primary is getting overlooked. You know, your previous guest is running in that race. You know, there's not a lot of attention there.
Yeah. You went a little deeper when it comes to this CD5 race here, and this, I understand, was you're asking, you basically categorized it. Maybe you should explain it. You shaped the results based on race?
Based on race. So we looked at not only where people live and how that influenced their support, but the race of the voter and how that influenced their support. And interesting, right? All 3 candidates are black, but Corrine Brown is doing much better amongst African Americans. Al Lawson is doing much better amongst white voters. Yeah. So it's really an interesting dichotomy how race is playing a role in this race where all 3 candidates are black.
Yeah. Does that explain maybe why 61% of the white voters there are in that we're not sure category?
I think that is mainly due to the fact that these are the folks that are typically tend to be west of Duval. Right. And because of that, they don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't had Corinne, they don't necessarily know Al Lawson, so I think there's that going on as well.
Well, that may support some of the arguments that Congresswoman Brown has had in these months, saying there's going to be that section between Duval County over to where Tallahassee is that she's been saying it disenfranchises black voters, but she's not fighting that battle anymore until after the election, I guess. Okay, third part of Congressional District 5, you broke it down by gender. Tell me about that.
Yeah, and this is another demographic issue. You know, Corinne Brown's doing better amongst women.
A little bit better.
A little bit, yeah. Not a lot, but a little bit. And Al Lawson's doing a little bit better amongst men. And this is fascinating, and there's real implications for this when you think about how that plays out here in Duval County. Because women are so much more likely to vote in the African-American community than men are, and generally women turn out more than men do, but in the African-American community, particularly here in Duval, because of felon disenfranchisement, because African-American men are incarcerated at such greater rates than women and whites and others, they are less likely to turn out to vote because either they've been jailed, they have previous felonies, their 7 years haven't expired, or they haven't reapplied. So the fact that she's doing better amongst women really helps her because there's going to be a much higher turnout amongst women here in Duval.
Well, I want to talk more about some of the research you're doing coming up here, but in the meantime, more national polling out this week, including a Q poll from Quinnipiac University. It had Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump virtually tied based on the margin of error. News4Jax political analyst Jennifer Carroll says it's about the trends that you're going to find in repeated polling, not what a poll says right at this moment.
I think the trend for Hillary Clinton that should be concerning is the trustworthiness, particularly with the Benghazi report that just came out. Although there is no smoking gun that points her to making any decision that was a detriment to what occurred with the ambassador and the other 3 Americans, it still shows that there's some information that she should have reasonably expect that they were in danger and should have done something about it. The email issues continue to come up. Almost every time we turn around, there's a new email that's being released, giving speculation that she's untrustworthy. On the other hand, for Donald Trump, what should be concerning for him are the young voters and the women voters. He cannot ignore that because consistently in these polls is showing that women are more supportive of Hillary Clinton, as well as the Democrats are more supportive of their candidate over the Republicans being supportive of their candidate.
And Dr. Bender, when I talked to the Lieutenant Governor there, I said, hey, you know, one poll says Clinton's up, the other poll, same day, says Trump is up. What do you really get out of polls at this point, because we're not even to the national convention yet?
Right, we're not even close yet. And I think the one thing with polls that's important to keep in mind is it's not about one particular poll at a given time. It's about the totality of them. People tend to treat, oh, I was here 5 minutes ago talking about it's 30 to 27. We treat it like it's an X-Acto knife, right? This is a scalpel. But really, it's kind of more of a rusty butter knife. You're getting a general idea of where things are at any given moment. So taking them in totality, I think, is really the best way to think about these things.
So I want to talk about another poll then. A survey on the 4th Circuit state attorney race, and this came from St. Pete polls. It reveals that incumbent Angela Corey is in deep trouble. Melissa Nelson poised to capitalize. The survey was conducted 1 week ago, and it sampled 590 likely Republican voters who had voted in either 2014 or 2016 in the primaries. These are the pollsters, by the way, who got the Jacksonville mayor's race right last year. And so this is the breakdown that you see right there. Melissa Nelson at 38%, Angela Corey 29%, Wes White at 16%. Corey also kind of suffering when it came to Republican voters wanted to see her reelected, a substantial margin demanding a change in the state attorney's office. This is something, again, where you're saying that the precise number right now isn't as big as maybe the trend is. Oh, look, there's some movement to say we want to replace the current state attorney.
The idea that you're an incumbent and you're down any points, but much less almost 10 points at this point in a race that's going to be happening in August is very concerning if you're the Angela Corey camp. You need to be very nervous about this poll. You know, we're actually polling on the same race. We're in the field right now. We're actually doing it 2 ways. We're doing it with just the Republicans like St. Pete did because it's a Republican primary that's closed. But we're also asking Democrats and independents, and we're going to compare and see if there's any differences there. But this does not bode well for Angela Corey, and seeing something like this, if I was running her campaign, I'd be very nervous.
Well, so you're going to talk to folks who can't vote in this primary. And I want to talk about that for a moment. Really, the question is kind of, are there 4 Republicans in the race for state attorney right now in Northeast Florida? Because there's been continuing claims of shenanigans against the Jacksonville lawyer who had added his name to the write-in list, and that closed the primary votes along party lines. Here's what Kenny Lay told the Folio Weekly this past week. He said, "I did it because the Democrats should have put a person in instead of watering down the Republicans." Also saying in that interview, if it's open, then the Democrats can vote and get the most liberal Republican. Also had said, "I gave money to Angela Corey. She's the first one who came to me." So maintains he didn't give money to or join the race to give Corey an electoral advantage that she wouldn't have had otherwise if that primary had remained open. But if a candidate is saying, yeah, isn't he saying I'm not really a candidate? Isn't that unfair?
Well, the short answer is yes. I mean, if you look at that, that just looks patently unfair. You've literally disenfranchised more than half of Duval County. And the argument, a poor argument that the Corey team put up during the court was, well, they can re-register as Republicans. Right. The problem with that argument is they wouldn't then be able to vote for the guy that was sitting in this chair 10 minutes ago who's running in a Democratic primary. They wouldn't be able to vote for Corinne Brown, the Democratic House member who's been representing them for 20 plus years. So there's that argument that isn't great. But this is a situation, it is legal. It is currently how the court is interpreting a mandate from the Secretary of State 15, 16 years ago. Right. I think this is something that Tallahassee needs to look at in the next session. I
asked somebody recently, hey, is kind of the same question, is it fair? Why? So both parties do it, both sides do it, or true. Somebody'd get it fixed right away. Yep. Appreciate it, Dr. Michael Bender from UNF. Thanks for your time. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, stay with us. We've got a final segment coming up looking at some of the elections that are already done in our area. That's ahead on This Week in Jacksonville.
Travel in luxury. See the extremely efficient and gorgeous Airstream Interstate Motorhome. Built on the quality Mercedes chassis and the Mercedes turbo diesel engine. Only at Dick Gore's RV World. Airport exit in Jacksonville.
It's Mattress Firm's 4th of July sale. Save up to $500 store-wide. Friday through Monday, get huge doorbuster deals like 30% off pillow top queen sets, 30% off queen headboards, and complete your sleep with 30% off accessories. The celebration continues. We're giving away 30 beds, and you could win a mattress instantly. Up to a $1,500 value free. Plus, get 0% APR for 72 months. Only at Mattress Firm.
This 4th of July, Nissan's giving you 1,000 more reasons to celebrate. Choose excitement, capability, safety, and get holiday bonus cash. During Nissan's Free to Choose event, get up to 1,000 holiday bonus cash on top of existing offers and save up to $3,500 on Altima. Hurry! Bonus cash ends July 5th. Shop at your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today.
You may be surprised to learn that you do not owe us a fee unless we win at trial or are able to obtain a fair settlement for you. So if you've been injured in an accident, hurt on the job, or the victim of medical malpractice, you don't owe us a fee unless we win your case. And your initial office visit with us is absolutely free. My family has represented you and your families for almost 30 years now. Today, we are honored to help you when you need us most. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
This is Pastor R.J. Washington of the Titus Harvest Dome. Join us on Channel 4 every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to have a God time. Yes.
Get on island time with IHOP's new Paradise Pancakes. Try pineapple upside down, strawberry passion fruit, or banana macadamia nut.
Stop and smell the pineapple.
Take a tropical break with new Paradise Pancakes and come together over breakfast at IHOP.
What famous American has covered more territory than any other? Hint, it's not a person. Celebrate 75 years of endless adventure today at the Jeep Drive and Discover event. One drive and you'll discover why Jeep is the most awarded best-selling SUV brand.
During the 4th of July sales event, current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2016 Cherokee for $199 a month.
This year, Winn-Dixie has chosen to honor Independence Day by honoring those who sacrificed for us. Every cent of every dollar of profit Winn-Dixie makes this 4th of July will be donated to Hope for the Warriors. So please join us this Independence Day at Winn-Dixie.
People posing as doctors.
I honestly thought I was going to die.
We cashed them in the act. What happened next surprised us all. We bust black market butt enhancements. Next Oz.
Monday at 4 on Channel 4.
Covering election 2016, we actually have some results already. Now that qualifying is over, more than a quarter of your elected officials have already been reelected. In our area, 4 members of the state legislature won't be on the ballot because of that. In the House, Republican Cindy Stevenson of St. Johns County and Democrat Clovis Watson of Alachua, they've already been reelected. They ran without opposition. Returning members of the Senate include Republicans Aaron Bean of Fernandina Beach and Rob Bradley of Fleming Island. Senate Democrat Audrey Gibson of Jacksonville has already been reelected as well. Well, Jacksonville Councilwoman Katrina Brown is now being told to pay back more than $200,000 to the city. Has to do with her family's businesses, of which Brown is a co-owner. Councilwoman Brown's father, Jerome Brown, runs a local barbecue restaurant. The family also packages and sells Jerome Brown's barbecue sauce. So a letter obtained by News4 Jax this week shows that the business is in default of its city grant. That means they owe $210,000. The money was to go toward developing a manufacturing facility to make their barbecue sauce. But to get the grant, they had to create 56 permanent jobs, something they have not been able to do. So now the company has 9 days to pay back the grant, or the city can sue. Channel 4's Jim Piggott tried to get comment on the matter from Brown midweek. She didn't really want to talk about it.
I deal with that when I'm in my other capacity of job. I got my city hall hat on today.
Brown released a statement to us saying, quote, "We intend to fully comply with our obligation and will initiate dialogue with the city to renegotiate the terms that are set forth, and takes into account the current number of jobs that have been created thus far." Our investigative team discovered that Brown's family business owes $22,000 in back taxes from 2015. Was also sued by Jacksonville Bank for failing to make payments on a loan. All right, coming up next Sunday, we're confirmed with Cindy Graves, the new leader of Duval County Republicans. She's also on the platform committee for the Republican National Convention later this month. And we're joined by Congressman Jason Altmaier, a moderate Democrat from Pennsylvania who lives and works here now. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching This Week in Jacksonville.
News4 Jax, we're always covering the news, even when we're not on TV. Stay informed, on the go, and online at news4jax.com.